What's up, folks? How's it going? Hope it's been a good first week of the year for you. Not been so great for America. Of course, we had the terrorist attack in New Orleans. We had whatever happened in Las Vegas. I don't really want to go too in depth on these, as I don't really have anything other than what the news has generally said about it, which isn't much. It's odd that they mentioned that first they were looking for accomplices and there were no accomplices, and they're certain of that. They're certain that they're not connected, though I think it's odd that they're both same day, but this could be a coincidence. It's a big day, but both rent a vehicle from the same app, which, okay, that's fine. Both electric cars. The Tesla, I guess, makes sense for whatever political statement they're claiming he was making. I don't really know how the Ford F-150 Lightning fits into that. Maybe he thinks or thought he was going to start a fire with it or something because of the battery. I don't know. The question that I have that I'd be curious to know, and I assume they must be trying to figure this out, but why New Orleans? I mean, any city in America would have had some sort of event. I guess the guy was from Houston. Why go to New Orleans, I wonder? Did he have he must have had some kind of connection. There had to be some reason for that. Because he could have caused the same type of chaos conceivably someplace closer to where he was. But he seemed to have taken great pains to go to this location and plan at this location. So there's got to be some connection to that. They haven't really spoken on that. So that's pretty weird. The Vegas truck bomb thing was pretty fucking weird. Active duty soldier shot himself in the head, they said. Maybe he did, but also you could conceivably drive a Tesla remotely with a dead guy in it. But I don't know. For what purpose? I don't know. So that's hard for me to... I like to look at these things and, say, well, what's the accomplishment? I understand the purpose of the other attack, if this is an ISIS-inspired attack, whatever, this is terrorism. But what was the purpose of this other thing? Did he just flip out? That's quite possible. As I just discussed in the last video, these special forces guys are, some of them ain't really right in the head. So it's possible that he just lost his fucking mind. But who knows? I guess we'll have to wait to find out. Or we'll find nothing out, like with the drones. They're just done with the drones now. I can't, I don't know what to do about that. I can't, there's nothing to do about that. Hopefully it doesn't come back to hurt us all in some horrible way. The main thing I wanted to talk about here is the whole kerfuffle that has arisen over the issue of Greenland and Canada being added to the United States, and I guess Panama Canal. This shit, okay. It's funny because the Fox News story and the CNN story is pretty much the same. But, on Fox, Trump announces we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico. The fuck does that even mean? CNN, military action on Panama, Greenland. Let's see here. President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday intensified his push for American expansionism, refusing to rule out using military force to add Greenland to the United States and retake control of the Panama Canal. In a wide-ranging news conference in Mar-a-Lago, his second since winning the 2024 election, he also said he could use economic force to turn Canada into the United States' 51st state. You get rid of that artificially drawn line and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security, Trump said at his Florida estate. The imperialistic land grabs Trump is floating, which if he follows through and succeeds would represent the first major changes to the American map since Hawaii's statehood in 1959, are a dramatic break from the foreign policy approaches of presidents in both parties in recent decades. And they come as Western leaders have opposed Russia's attempts at expansion into formerly Soviet territory, including its war in Ukraine. During his hour-long remarks, Trump also stewed over a series of grievances, including the legal cases brought against him, blah, 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 transition, a bunch of shit about him, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, like, the first term of Trump, I voted for Trump, because Hillary Clinton kills people. Like, I mean, I think that's pretty clear. I don't really think you have to be, like, a conspiracy theorist to understand that Hillary Clinton, like, kills people. And I thought Trump was kind of funny. The second time I voted for Trump because Biden was clearly, like, demented even then. Now they come out and they say, yeah, he was demented the whole time, like it's a bombshell thing. I mean, he's clearly was demented. This time it's like, dude, I don't even know what to make of all this. But so in Trump's first term, it took a little while for me to get to the point where I was like, no, you stop it. You stop that. It was when he started launching missiles at Syria and was like threatening to launch all types of missiles at people. I don't want wars. Okay. And then I said no. And this time, before we're even into the thing, I have to say no. And I want to point this out to the people out there that I want to make a distinction between, and it has to be made now, okay, going forward with how it looks like this Trump situation with his alliance with Musk and the nerd Vivek Ramaswamy, as they ally, a distinction needs to be made. They're trying to make a distinction. I guess they're calling woke right, whatever the fuck that means. What they mean by woke right, there's now two, you can either be right wing or you can be with this, whatever it is that they're going to do. I'm like a Ron Paul guy. I think any person who's reasonable at all, who acts like it's even funny to seriously consider adding Canada, okay, Canada as a state. I don't want to add any states. I don't think, though it's theoretically possible, I don't think America has a manifest destiny. Was already done. That was never like a legal policy, but we did that already. We control the whole continent. The United States has no obligation. It has no, as the corporations would say, it has no fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders to expand its territory, okay? It's come into possession of various places over the years as a result of wars, but we don't need to be expanding for so many reasons that I can't even believe that it's even like a discussion that people are having about how this could be like a good idea. Have you met Canadian people? And I'm talking right now to like Trump people right now. If you identify as a Trump person, if you met Canadian people, do you understand the general mood that Canadians have towards the United States and Americans? My entire life, I've heard these people talk. I'm from Michigan. There's a lot of Canadians here. They talk shit. That's the joke. America's stupid. We're retards. They're better than us. And like, you want to add a country of over 30 million. You want to add make a state or several states out of a country of over 30 million people who are all in general more liberal than California, and that's something that you think is a good idea. Now, what I think the attempt is here, so this is a negotiating strategy for Trump, okay? Because he puts out something insane, which it is insane, okay? If you want to talk about it as a funny hypothetical, like an alt history thing, that's fine. But if you're seriously considering weighing the pros and cons of adding Canada to these several states, you've lost your fucking mind as far as I'm concerned. So he throws out this madness. This is put out into the ether. And then I heard somebody mention something, which is, it's something that they've been talking, and I think this is what the thrust of this is. And this is something that's been talked about. And this is why it's crazy to see people, specifically on YouTube, who are like supposedly libertarian, small government people, who are the kind of people that years ago would have been worried about the Amero or whatever. This unified currency and all this other type of shit. I think the thrust of this is to try to create some monetary union between the United States and Canada, which would immediately be probably more beneficial to the Canadians. But see, ideologically, I don't actually care whether or not uniting under a financial system or as a state, I don't care whether it would be good or bad, statistically speaking, I'm just against it. I'm against it. Now, the idea of something like Greenland, see, like 100 years ago, that is not that crazy of a thing in the grand scheme of things. Not that many people live there. But I mean, to even float out as a joke that there could be some military solution to, we're going to go to war with Denmark, okay, over Greenland, where we already have a base. It doesn't even make any sense. It's ridiculous. I think it's just, going out there throwing things out. Now, the Panama Canal, did the United States have, see, I've heard people say that, this is what's annoying to me, because we have to be consistent here, okay? Did the United States build the Panama Canal? Well, not initially. They finished it after some people killed a lot of people in an attempt to build it the first time, and then people died when we finished it as well. But they gave it up. We can't be, for lack of a better term, not politically correct, but we can't be Indian givers, okay? I guess if you could come up with some reasonable money deal on the Panama, because the Panama Canal is an asset. It's an item that can be purchased or sold. I guess if the Panamanians peacefully wish to sell the United States the canal, and there could be some arrangement whereby it made sense, I'm not like against that in principle, but the incredible, and they actually pointed out in this article at some point, and they come as Western leaders have opposed Russia's attempts at expansion into former Soviet territory, including its war in Ukraine. CNN actually makes a valid point there, which I'm surprised, because that'll be a, when RT says that, that'll be a Russian state talking point, and it will be. They won't be wrong about that, but they say that right there. I mean, it is hypocritical. But whatever. I guess it's just like, how the fuck? It's like, am I on drugs? Yes, but no more than usual. And like, you got these people are like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like, no, it wouldn't be cool. Are you fucking insane? We can't even run the country that we have now. And here's the thing. There can be no action that expands the scope of the U.S. federal government should be seen as a good thing by anybody who considers themselves against the system. If your point of voting for Trump at any point along this series of events was to throw a wrench in the system, anytime they do something that expands the scope of government or even threatens to, this should concern you. I was against Space Force. People were like, that's genius. He saw into the future because space. They've known about space. Like, we had the Air Force. We already have 4 fucking military branches. It's fine. The Air Force doesn't really do anything. The Navy does most of the combat shit. The Air Force is supposed to be defending the airspace here, which they apparently can't do. And they have the satellites and stuff. They're supposed to be doing space. They could have done that. We don't need to expand a whole another fucking branch of government just because it sounds cool. And people are so fucking stupid that, like, that's when it goes past a joke. Like, Space Force as a joke, funny. When it actually goes into the thing and people are still, it's almost like, not to use this term, but it's almost like a cope where they go, ha ha ha, isn't that cool? Space Force. Like, no, it's not fucking cool, bro. It's not fucking cool. You can't keep expanding the size of government. And if you were to, again, I don't think it's gonna happen, but just like the idea that it's even palatable to people is disturbing to me. You're gonna what would happen to all the people that worked for the Canadian government? Would they join our government? Would we have to hire even more people? So we're gonna expand the government even more. Fucking insane. We can't even handle the problems here. This is classic, like, I mean, I hate to say this, but this is distraction shit. This is, we have serious structural issues with the economy, with the infrastructure, with everything in this country. That what we don't need is fly-by-night. This is just a new type of, in my opinion, what we're seeing here is just a different type of distraction. The Democrats distract people with their fucking ridiculous race baiting and all their racial politics and all the trans politics, all that stuff is all a distraction for their continued imperialism and war making and theft and corruption. And the Republicans now, see, they used to use religion, Christianity and things like that as their cover, but that doesn't really work anymore. So now we're transitioning into ridiculous stunts like this to cover for the fact that, like, there's serious problems here, and if your focus is going to be on starting even even as a joke to suggest that you're gonna, like, engage in military action with Denmark over Greenland is not what we need right now. Okay? We don't need tech oligarch people more involved with government. We don't need, Elon Musk is funny, but we don't need this, and I understand he's not going to be, like, in the government, but we don't need, this is not the kind of people that we want running the world. If your position is that we should have a world that's controlled by tech oligarchs, regardless of whether you perceive them as based or not, then we're not gonna be able to continue to function. That's more or less the thrust of Sam Hyde's video recently. That's 2 Sam Hyde references in a row. He's had a big month. But, like, what are we doing? What are we talking about here? Like, Trump has been elected. If it's all true, and like I said, like, Trump wouldn't be elected if they didn't want him to be. But let's pretend that the whole thing is legit, and Trump's been elected. He's been getting popular vote. he's got a mandate, right? We can't. You have a chance to do something to actually fix some of the stuff that's horrifically wrong here. Don't don't do this. Don't do this. And people who have been on like the internet and every other place for years espousing to be small government and not wanting to like, you know, do all these other kind of things. If you find yourself supporting, I know you feel you have to be, you shouldn't worship, you shouldn't be like insane against Trump, and you shouldn't be insane for him. You should like see him as a human being and decide where you fall in and like be willing to criticize in a reasonable way, one way or the other. The way that people act with him is fucking creepy as fuck. In both directions. If I was religious, I would be concerned that this man was the Antichrist. Not because, I'm not saying he's doing a bunch of, you know, I'm not saying he's evil necessarily. That's not even what I mean, but the way that people react to this person is just bizarre. You have whole legions of people on one side that just treat him like, I mean, you can see people on, and they're not all trolling. I mean, some people are trolling, but like, I mean, they really believe that there was no evil before Donald Trump. You know, there was only good in the world before Donald Trump came. There was nothing before. And for other people, nothing Trump does can be wrong. And he's like got all these secret plans and shit, and like they fall over backwards to go defend him. And partially this is a reaction to the vehemence with which they hated him from the get-go. And I understand that. But after a couple years, you got to understand you're being reactionary. So like, I don't know. You shouldn't support adding multiple states to the country. That's not what I'm about. Okay? I didn't think, you know, I guess you have to decide what you're about. But I don't know. That's about all. Talk to you folks later.